So, I want to talk about feedback and the power of feedback because we don't get enough feedback in our lives, not positive, constructive feedback anyway. And I'm all about creating your successful career. And if you're going to do that, then you need to get feedback. We need to get feedback more from people that can give us constructive guidance and help us create ourselves that new path, that new career, that new job, but just to continuously improve. Because if you want to have a great career, then you need to continuously improve. And continuous improvement is great for growth, both in life. The more skills we learn, the better we are. But it's great for fulfillment because growth is what keeps us fulfilled. And the only way to grow is to continue to learn. And whether that's feedback that you get from yourself by practicing things, whether that's feedback you get from professional people like coaches, whether that's feedback you get from, people around you in life, but we're looking for useful feedback. Now, one of the tips for getting great feedback is to ask specific questions. So if you can preempt it at all, so if you're going into a meeting or you're doing a presentation of some description, then ask somebody beforehand, could you give me some feedback on how I'm performing? And then be specific. How was my voice? Was I clear? Did I waffle? What was the subject matter like? Was it clear? Was it interesting? Be very specific about what it is you're asking for, because people aren't that great at giving feedback. So if you can ask them specifically what you're looking for, because you don't want to be asking people who are just going to say, you were fabulous, oh, you're brilliant, I always love what you do. That's really nice and it's really motivating, but it's not going to help you improve yourself. So you're looking for constructive criticism. So be specific about what you're asking for. And ask the right people, obviously. And then this is about listening, because actually we're not that great at receiving feedback either. We don't really get trained on how to receive feedback. And it is quite an art receiving feedback. And you do have to be prepared to listen and take things on board. So when somebody gives you feedback, whether you've asked for it or not, then listen. Listen really carefully. And don't listen in order to respond. Just listen, take it in, ask some questions, ask probing questions. Okay, so you say this, but specifically, what was it about that made you feel awkward, difficult? What was it? Ask probing questions so that you fully understand the feedback that you're getting. And then you decide what to do with that feedback. Now, if it's constructive and it's going to help you on your way, then fantastic. You listen to it, you find a way to adapt the way that you're doing things so that you can improve. But not all feedback is good and not all feedback is relevant. So you choose what you take. You listen to feedback, you review, you reflect on it, you implement the things that you think are going to help you, and then you ignore the rest. And it just brings to mind for me an example that I have from last week, where I've been learning to sing over the last year or so. So it's all new for me. I'm not a great singer, I'm an amateur singer, but I love it. And I've entered into a couple of singing competitions. And last week I was in a singing competition, and the idea is that you sing in front of an audience, and then there's an adjudicator, and they give you feedback which will help you improve your singing, which is what I'm trying to do. So this is the third session I've been to, the third festival I've been to, and all of the feedback has been really good. I've listened to it, I've taken it on board. But the adjudicator this time, she was a bit harsh, I'm going to say, and that's not just because it was me. I was listening to feedback she gave other people. But I sang Let It Go from Frozen, which is a big song, it's a difficult song, and I felt on the day that I sang it well. I felt proud of the performance that I gave. So when she stood up and gave me feedback, I was prepared to listen to it. There's a couple of good tips about things that she felt I could improve on. Fantastic. But then she said, that song was too difficult for you. You shouldn't have sung it. You should have picked something easier. And I was like, why would I pick something easy? This is about challenging myself. So I decided to ignore that advice, because if I'd not been as confident a person, I'd have thought, oh God, I'm really rubbish at singing. I'm never going to do it again. I'm never going to come to one of these festivals again. So when you're giving feedback, consider how you're giving it, because she could have given that to me in a much more positive way. She could have said, that was a difficult song, Sheila. You tried it really well. There's some things things that you achieved well in that song, and there's lots for you to learn. Fine, I get that. But just to stand there and tell me that I just shouldn't have sung that song, I wasn't good enough to sing that song, that was feedback I decided to ignore. So it is vital that you take on board feedback, but you don't get dissuaded by it. You don't get discouraged by it, because some people, they might mean well, but then they're not giving you the encouragement that you need. So, just remember to have the courage of your own convictions with things. Take the useful feedback on board and brush aside anything that's not going to be useful for you. And this is about you deciding what you want to get out of something. So, what is it you want to get better at? Who could help you do that? Go and find people that could actually, come and watch you do whatever it is that you want feedback on, whether it's singing or whether it's work, whether it's a presentation or a meeting, and how you run your team, whatever it is. Be clear about what it is you want to improve. Find the right people to give you the advice and feedback that you need, and then listen, reflect, make the changes that you think are relevant, and ignore the rest. So some tricks to listening, there's some tricks to taking feedback on board, receiving feedback, because there is quite an art to receiving feedback. So as I say, the biggest thing is to listen. Listen really closely, probe and ask any questions so that you're really clear on what it is that they're telling you, so that you fully understand the feedback that you're getting. Write some notes. Don't be defensive. So when you're listening, just listen. And when you're asking your questions, ask constructive questions, not defensive questions, because we do have a habit of getting defensive when people give us feedback, and that's not going to be any use to you. As I said, you can listen to it and then discard it, but don't be defensive at the time. Properly listen and think, okay, what are they telling me? So just listen, ask a lot, and then take it away and think about it. And then you review it. So you review the feedback that you've been given. You pick out the constructive bits. You pick out the useful bits. You adapt your behavior, your performance based on the feedback that you've been given. And that will help you improve moving forward. And then once you've done that and you've implemented it and you've improved it, then you get more feedback. So you don't just get one lot of feedback, because sometimes it takes time. So with my singing, this is my third competition. I've got different feedback each time. I've implemented that feedback, and then you work on it to continuously improve. So you ask for feedback, you continuously ask for feedback. Just keep asking for feedback, because if you don't get feedback, then it'd be very difficult to actually improve your career. So there's some tips about getting feedback, and I hope that they will help you improve your career. Good luck.